Hey kids, I'm in the kitchen and today I'll be making something for us to be able to eat later in the day because we're going out on a fishing trip. And I decided to see what I had in the fridge to get something that would be nice and comforting. It's a little cool outside. I don't want it to be done when we get back. So let me show you what I got out from the fridge, and we're going to throw something together and stick it in a crock pot and let it cook. Okay, so I pulled out some pineapple. I've got some scallions and some onion here. Green pepper, jalapeno, some pineapple salsa, some brown basmati rice, I'll get that pronounced good, and 2 split chicken breasts. So I'm going to take and debone this, throw it in the crock pot, and start adding everything else. Okay, so the first thing I did was I deboned and deskinned my chicken. It gave me really 2 nice big piles of chicken. I also saved the au jus from the cooking of the chicken last night, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop this up, stick it in our crock pot. So I want to show you something here when you're cutting up your chicken. If you look at your chicken breast here, you're going to see this, these here. This is the muscle that's in the chicken. You want to make sure that you cut across that. You don't want to cut into it this direction, go with it. You want to go against the grain of the meat, the muscles, because otherwise you're going to get some really tough chicken chunks. So make sure you cut it across the grain and Gary, stick it in your crock pot. Now before I go much further, I wanted to say something here. I found the chicken, split chicken breasts on sale for like $6 a package. And that should feed roughly 4 people. With what we're doing. So I'm going to get ready to get my cutting board a good clean before I go to cut up my vegetables, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I got my veg out, got my jalapeno. I'm going to chop them up into little pieces like this. I'm grandma chopping my 1.5 onions into just little dices, and I'm going to do the same thing with the green peppers, and then I'm going to throw all this stuff in the crock pot. Okay, so I got everything on here. I'll cut up on my board. And at this particular point, it doesn't matter. Just scoop it all up with your hands and toss it right into the crock pot. So here we go. We're just going to keep putting more in there until it's all off of the cutting board and in there. I'm just going to kind of level it off just a little bit, just to mix it up just a hair, but it really doesn't matter. It's all going to cook in anyway. So I'm going to continue doing this. And then I'll be back here in just a moment to show you what else we're going to do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my scallions, and I'm going to go ahead and dump those in there as well. Only that's about 1.5 bunches or so. And I'm just going to give this a little quick stir here, just to try to get that stuff mixed in with the chicken there a little bit. If we pull a bit of the chicken to the top, it's no big deal. Okay. On to the next step. Okay, not now, kitties. My kitties are in the kitchen, they smell the chicken. So the next thing I'm going to do is I opened up the can of pineapple. I'm going to pull the rings out and leave the juice there for just a moment. I'm going to give these guys a little bit of a slice here to make them not so big in our mix and reserve the liquid that's in there. I'm not sure if I'll use all these, depends on what it looks like here. Maybe half a can or more. Okay, let's see what we got here. But I did give my cutting board a wipe down, so that we're not getting jalapeno juice and stuff like that. Yeah, I got all of them about like 3. Let's see how this works out. Okay, so I pulled out 7 slices, and what I'm going to do is I cut them in half, and I'm just going to be making bite-sized chunks like that. That's pretty much about what you would get if you bought a can of the chunked pineapple, which I didn't get. So I'm going to go ahead and continue down here. Like I said, slices them in quarters and throw this into the crock pot. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is a 1 cup measuring cup. I'm going to measure out 1 cup of rice, which means if we've got 1 cup of rice, we're going to need at least 2 cups of liquid in here to make sure that our rice cooks properly. But the main thing is if you have enough liquid to cover it up, it'll be great. So I'm going to measure that out and then dump that in here on top of this. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but it'll double up. And my husband and I don't eat a lot of carbs anyway, but that's okay. So we got that in there. Now we're going to start adding our liquids. Okay, so I've opened up my jar of salsa. This happens to be Newman's pineapple, and we're going to just kind of dump all this right on top of here, like that. I'll use a spatula and get the rest of that stuff out of the jar. I'm going to add all of our pineapple juice, where I like it at. And as you see, there's not really quite enough liquid to cover everything up, so I'm going to go get a jar full of the water here. That'll rinse out all the rest of the stuff I need from that and add it to it and see where we are. Okay, before I forget, we're going to take and add our stock that we had when we cooked the chicken breasts. Those go in. Now we've got 1 full jar of liquid from that. Oh yeah, there, see how that's going to do? That's going to start mixing all this stuff. Now what we're going to do is just double check and make sure we got enough liquid, and if we don't, we'll add another one. It looks like we don't, so we'll add another one in there. Another jar of water. Using the Newman's jar for a measuring cup measurement, and go from there. Okay, so I got 1 more jar full of water. Oh, there we go. That looks better. I'm going to use a spatula just to mix everything up in here. There we go. Oh yeah, we got enough water over top of everything. That'll mix up the vegetables and the meat and the juice. And we're just going to let that slow cook today. Now, whether this turns out as a casserole or a pot of soup, I don't know. We'll find out. But the thing is, though, is we actually probably could add a little more rice to it, but we're going to leave it as it is and just let it cook while we're out fishing. Okay, so I got everything in the crock pot there, and I'm going to set it on simmer for 4 hours. And then by that time, when everything's over with, it should go down to just a warm setting and continue cooking until we get back. So, here we go. Okay, so we just got back from our fishing trip, and this is the moment of truth on whether or not this turned out, or it was a completely utter failure. Stand by. All right. Smells good. It might be more of a soup. But the main thing is to check the rice to see if the rice is done. So I'm going to do here. So I'm going to drain a little bit off there. Nope, not done. Bummer. Okay, so the rice is not quite done. So evidently 4 hours on a simmer in a crock pot is not quite long enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it to a pot, cook it for a little bit. It still tastes great though, but we're going to get the rice done. Okay, so sometimes things don't turn out like you think they ought to, should, would, could, did, but that doesn't mean it's hopeless. So what I did is I took everything out of the crock pot, stuck it on a big, I think it's like a 5 or 6 quart saucepan, and I've got it cooking. Everything tastes great, just the rice is more like el dente. I like mine a little bit more cooked. So I'm going to put it in there on a nice, about 4 or so, 5 on the electric, and warm it up a little bit more and get the rice tender, and then it'll be ready. So it's going to turn out to be a soup, not a casserole, which is still okay because it tastes great. So I've got it on the stove for about 20 minutes or so, and the rice is now done. Doesn't that look good? It's gotten a little thicker, and even as it cools off, it'll thicken even more, but it's made a couple of really nice bowls of kind of thickened soup, which the husband and I are going to enjoy for dinner. Okay, so here's an update. I went ahead and got the rice cooked. It's been about an extra 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so because it's basmati rice and it didn't fully cook in the crock pot, but that's okay. So I put it back on the stove, let it cook for about another 20 minutes, and it was great. Husband and I ate it. It was kind of a little on the soup side, but let me show you what happened after I let it sit in the pot for about a half an hour while we finished dinner. This is what happened. All that lovely fluid soaked up into that rice, and it made a lovely little dish. We have eaten a good half of it, but that just means we got a little bit left over for tomorrow. So even though you want to leave it in your crock pot longer or pre-cook your rice, either way this is going to turn out great. And it's really sweet, it's got a little bit of heat to it, and it's a nice dish that'll serve at probably 4. Like I said, the husband and I have already eaten our fill of it for tonight, so this would be a one-pot meal for 4 folks. I hope you enjoy.